Ciao a tutti e bentornati a un nuovo episodio dello S2M Podcast. Io sono Luca e volevo solo ricordarvi molto velocemente che questo è un estratto di una conversazione con Hans Emil, che quindi già altri episodi precedenti sono usciti, quindi vi consiglio, se non l'avete ancora fatto, di dare un'occhiata agli altri video che trovate sul canale. Detto ciò, spero che il podcast sia di vostro gradimento e vi auguro una buona visione.
And guys, how's training going? How's
House
training
training?
going?
Oh,
Yeah,
you mean training? Well, I'm
training.
supposed
Yeah,
to train.
training. Yes, training muscles
Oh,
and
no.
strength and stuff.
I'm supposed to train in like tonight, maybe like in 4 hours. Yeah, I'm training very late because I'm a piece of shit. I can't sleep lately. We have the same issues, me and Pasto.
Okay.
We're sleeping very poorly lately, and we're waking up either very early or very late because the quality of the sleep is compromised, and we train at wonderful hours. I usually train in the late PM, and Luca trains in the early AM.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's going good. Training is going good. I had a shoulder injury a couple of months ago, but I'm actually recovering from it, and upper body training will be bumped up in a few weeks because my lower body can't take it anymore. I've been doing like 2 lower body sessions per week, and as you can maybe recall, Hans, my lower body was already my strongest point in 2019,
Yes.
and at this point I'm looking like Mewtwo, and it's not the look that I'm going for. But I mean, my lower body is progressing each and every single week, which is fun because I'm hitting good numbers on the hack squat, on lunges, leg curls and stuff. So I would be probably
like belt squat in your gym. Belt squat.
man, that's like
No,
mirage in Italy. You can't find it nowhere, unfortunately.
that's just a pity actually. A
Yeah.
really good type of equipment to have in a gym, and especially with working with different types of client with different kinds of issues, and also good for like load management. Totally, with the frying of the central nervous system and all these heavy squats. And hey,
Yeah.
can we just reduce the total amount of stress this week? And maybe we should do some extra volume on the belt squat. So belt squat is really a good tool in terms of like muscle growth, strength progression, and as a exercise itself. I think also with the stability component, I think some people when I first try it, because the machine looks a bit scary at first. What is this? What is this kind of sadistic machine? Well, when the persons first try this machine, got a lot of stability. It's easier to go to depth. Only loads on the quads and the glutes. Perfect equipment to just push the muscle. Easier to go through a muscular failure because of the stability component.
Yeah.
When you're doing this squats, there's a higher risk for technical failure before muscular failure. Squats is a great exercise for strength and muscle gains. Make it understood, but sometimes people got the failure to mobilize, because they'll be scared. Okay, what if I don't hit the depth, or what if I not come rushing out from the bottom? What if I stay there? A lot of these thoughts, who are irrational thoughts, which lurks when you're doing the squats heavy, and sometimes the belt squat, with all the stability. And if you fail, you just take off the hook, and let the machine just lay there with the plates. So I think it could make the threshold a bit lower to pushing the legs for some people.
I spoke to Valentin like a couple of days ago, and he also have a strong bias towards belt squats. He also programs with like
it's Das Gym guy. Das Gym.
yeah, that guy.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm good to just pick up on things, even though I'm not as a frequent user of Instagram that I've been earlier. But yeah, Valentin, yeah, riktigt. So yeah, continue.
No worries. I was
So
just saying that.
I'm biased. Yes, I'm biased towards the belt squat.
Belt squat. Well, it's a good machine, especially if you don't have the. I mean, you have a lot of stability, as you mentioned. Do you have any other favorites for training, like the quads, the glutes, and adductors mainly, in terms of compounds that you often program?
I like one-legged stuff with stability. Let's say, I think the rise of these alternative guys, the ass to the grass, knees over the guys. I think, in a big picture, I think he's done a lot of good because of promoting this more knee drive and the knees over the toes, and that's a really good thing to just emphasize the load on the quads. Although there are a lot of mechanistic things that he's probably wrong on, but if you look at the grand picture, I think he's been like a good influence in terms of training effectively on the quads. So I like this knee traveling kind of exercise with one foot at a time, because when you're 192, long-legged giraffe of Norway, some exercises are pretty awkward to do. So like a ordinary squat for me, and even the belt squat, is probably a better adductor movement for me than a quad exercise, because it's all about the depth. And when you have coached people, you will see that the stance of each given individual can vary a lot, because it's all about the hip joint. Is it shallow? Is it deep? That will have an influence on how you stand, and the mobility, of course, or the flexibility. And the shaft of the femur can also have its own different angle. So you have to really find, first of all, when you're starting with strength training, you have to find a stance that you can build a good base on. Okay, what kind of stance can you have good depth with, and not overthinking the little bias or the squat bias. Okay, well, if you just can lift the bar, you have to just try to increase those numbers. Don't think about this details in the start.
Just pick one, and then you can add some other biases. But let's start with that standard base.
And then you see a trend. Okay, so my adductors and my glutes, posterior chain is really getting strong, but I'm doing these heavy numbers on the squats, and there are no quads. Okay. Then I have to tailor exercises which promotes better stimuli for the quads. Okay, so you have to look at each given individual and tailor the exercises, because we have some some trends when it comes to people. Okay, the classic weightlifter with the long upper body and the short legs are just meant for squatting. They can probably do ordinary squats, and they just get all of their growth just by doing that. Okay, because they're just so perfectly built. But then again, when you look at their deadlifting, then that exercise become a bit awkward, because they're more quad biased and hip biased, and then their focus should be really developing the hamstrings and the glutes. And if you have the opposite guy, which is technically me, with the shorter upper body and long legs, I probably should do more variation, which I get a lot of knee traveling and more emphasis on the quads, because the strength of my posterior chains just develops better because of how I'm angling myself on each given exercise. Because you can have let's say you have 4 different exercises for developing the quads. But if your trend always points in that direction, that you're angling your body forward and always loading the hip, then you should look at how you're performing each given exercise. Okay, so an exercise could be meant for training one muscle group, but when you execute it, you train a bit more biased towards something else. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah.
So all about the structure of each given individual. So for myself, if I'm gonna develop my quads, so one-leg stuff, I like belt squats with just a lot of knee traveling. So I probably have to build my heel up a bit to reach better depth. But I think maybe one of the best exercises for me is probably a good incline leg press, where the plate is big. The problem with a lot of leg presses is that the plate is too little, so it probably fits this one guy, and all the other people are just hitting something else. So then if the plate is big enough, I can really try to have the feet a bit lower, so I emphasize a more knee drive, and if there are possible to adjust the seat, the back of the seat, with you will probably try to angle yourself so you are more upright. If you did the leg press and had this guy taking a picture for you, and you flipped the picture so it looked like you're doing a squat, then it should be knees forward. So that's a good thing. But if you have like a sled which are at a given weight and pushes you down, it's easier to get this deep stretch with the quads, and a bit more flexion at the ankles to emphasize this quad focus. But when it comes to adductors, for me, I just naturally develops good adductors because of my structure. So that's not a priority. I think in general, adductor training is a bit difficult because there are not that too many machines. Because if you miss this good guy, bad guy type of movement with the seated adductor machine, there's not that too many options actually for the adductors. So then you have to do this Copenhagen movement, which is good, but then again, there's a lot of stability issues with that. You have to doing this side plank and then do the adductor. So there are it is a really good exercise for athletic development because of the stabilization of the hip and the integrated movements and contractions. But in terms of muscle building, your ability to stand upright in exercise, it's the limiting factor, not the adductors. So then again, in terms of muscle building, it's not that good of exercise. But then again, some exercises are not perfect for building muscle, but it kind of depends on the person doing it. Because I think this is a long rant or a big monologue of me talking about training now, but I hope I embrace it. But let's say Jeff Albers. So I think he's this great bodybuilding skill. You can have this movement doing with perfection, and each rep looks the same with him. So I got this great bodybuilding skill in terms of execution. He can have high intent of effort, but the technique is just boom. It's perfect for each rep, and that's ability which is really rare to see, because often when you see people coming towards the zone of muscular failure, you will see we call it the self-organization. Have you heard about that? Self-organization is let's present it like this. It's when the body is got a task like presented for it. The body just executed the best way with where it's presented. Does that make sense? Maybe a bit. We should
Can you give us
an
an example?
Let's say a person doing a squat, okay, and then he's depth and going out from the bottom, and then his knees cave in. If it's been 2012, they will say, okay, you have to do this banded hip abduction to strengthen your gluteus medius. Okay, but if you look at research now, you will say that, oh, that's probably just the abductor doing its job in that given situation. So the body is presented with a task, and the body performs the task, and the muscle, which are in the best place to produce force and perform the task. So this was something I've seen like intuitively by watching weightlifting, and doing weightlifting, and the knees and the elbows and everything is all over the place, Suddenly they hit depth and are just traveling the knees heavy forward or rise the hip, whatever. But then again, it's all about this building tolerance with the body. The body is adapted to these different positions. So in 2012, oh, this is dangerous for your knees. But then again, these guys are doing this every day, and it's no problem. So it's all about how you adapt to a load long term.
Yeah,
it's not about a given movement is more dangerous than others. It's all about the body is a very adaptable organism. Okay.
So yeah, I wanted to say two things. The first one is about adductors. You said there's no many exercises to train the adductors, and I finally lately I've discovered this exercise, which actually I haven't discovered, but was suggested to me by a personal trainer, which I know and I've trained with a couple of weeks ago. So it's Tadas. You can search it on Instagram, whatever. It trains people in York, here in the UK. And basically, he suggests me to try with a plate, like 20 kilograms plate on the floor, and try to drag it with the leg. You open your legs with the wide stance, and you place the plate between your foot, and then you try to move it, like to move it through all the gym.
Yeah,
I haven't tried it yet, but I think it's a good way to train the adductors. It's like the sled where like also hypertrophy coach Joe Bennett like suggests to try the sled, because at the end of the workout it gives like that pumping, because it doesn't involve any type of eccentric force, so it's just concentric after concentric. And so I'd like to try it, and I think it's a good exercise, especially because all the adductors machines, you always do them unilaterally, bilaterally, and so that if you have any imbalances in the sides, it's pretty difficult to solve them, as I've seen by myself 1 or 2 years ago. When I used to do it, I used to rotate my hips, and I had different range of motion between the right and left side. So I try this. It's difficult to find, as you said, exercises for the adductors, because also the Copenhagen plank, you most of the times you do it in a static position. But if you want to train the adductors into what is more dynamical type of exercise, I think that might be a good option. I don't know if you ever heard about it or if you tried it in the past.
Yeah, I've tried some variation, also with kind of variation with cat slides. Cat slides.
No.
And no, I can probably send you a video. But I also have this exercise on my Instagram where we have this 45 degrees hyperextension.
Yeah.
And then you split your legs, and you how does it work? it would be probably like this, and then you bend over you get in this star position, and then you
I think I've
put
seen
your
it.
legs together.
I think I've
Yes, I
seen it
think
on your
Elia,
profile.
haven't you, Elia, tagged me once when you shared that exercise?
I think I've done it, yes. But
Yes,
it was maybe 2018, 2019. It was very early on.
Yeah, but
maybe.
so I passed all my quarantine during high school in the mornings during Italian and Latin lessons, scrolling to your feeds. So I've seen all your posts. So I might
Oh,
have,
that's cool.
yeah, I might have gone through all that too. So
That's
yeah.
You know, have Elia talked about the cycleman curl?
Yeah, of course. Everyone knows it now. You finally see
I'm kind of like
people in the gym doing it, which is such a success.
yeah. Can you do this thing for me, Elia? Just ask what is the curl called, and then they say the cycleman curl.
Well, not at
That
that
would be
point.
hilarious. That would be hilarious because you know, somebody is big in Japan and somebody is big in Italy. So the Sykkylven is actually my birthplace. So it's a really little town in Norway with 7,000 inhabitants. So yes, it's a really like a random that kind of exercise. I got the name of such a small place, but you know it's better. It's called Sykkylven curls than like Hans Emil or Thunem curls because that's where this coach ego kind of mindset. Oh,
Yeah,
I have to name
yeah, it's
this
too
exercise
much.
after me because I'm this great inventor.
Well, I still call it cyclical curls. However, our colleague Marco calls it like cable bench curl, which is just a standard definition. Uh, it doesn't have it doesn't have
It's a good
any
definition.
passion in it.
You know the pitch curl, originally named like Scott curl, isn't it? Scott curl from Larry Scott, I think. Yeah, Scott curl. Scott curl is a lot cooler than pitch curl.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that variant that you talked about, Luca, good for the pumps and probably a good exercise to get into a shortened position of the adductors, because I think although there are lacking a lot of direct exercises like machine exercises for the adductors, I think probably a wide squat or a sumo deadlift actually is a really potent exercise for stimuli for the adductors, because then you get heavy loads and great stretch. So when you have heavy loads in a stretch position, probably advantageous for muscle growth. Are you agreeing with that? You know, we're seeing all these studies now coming up with the
Yeah.
triceps and the chest, and probably in overall you should have exercises that emphasizes high loads on stretch position. Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
so I think probably these kind of exercises will give you the most bang for the buck. But then again, it's a bit like, okay, if we can do this shortened position, emphasis, whatever, you probably should do it. And the cost of this exercise is probably a lot less as well. You know, when you're doing heavy exercises within stretch position, a lot of muscle damage
Yeah.
and
A lot of muscle damage,
DOMS,
high
you know,
recovery.
the delayed onset muscle soreness and all this factors which involves like force production and so on, just decline. You have to have, you can have a better a higher frequency with exercises that are in a short position emphasis than a stretch position emphasis.
Yeah, you can get
Because
away
of
with
the
way more
total
volume.
total demand on the central nervous system and the muscle itself.
Yeah, I
So
think
I
also
think that's
sorry, go
yes.
on. Go on.
No problem. Because it's an engaging topic actually, this one, and because when people randomly ask me, Hans, how many sets per week should I do? 10? Should I do 20, 25? Well, it kind of depends how each given sets looks like in the beginning. How is the intensity of effort what kind of exercise is it, because that is also influence the training volume. So I think this like statements, 15 sets is the best, 20 sets are the best. It lacks a lot of nuance when it comes to like the programming bit. Okay, so I think probably this relationship with like the intensity and the volume, and I think some people who, let's say it in this way, strength training in itself is a quite safe physical activity to do. So the training, the frequency of injury per hour with strength training, 0 point something, is incredibly low. But if you like compare it to like a sport like rugby or ice hockey, whatever, you see like the total amount of injuries per 1,000 hours are a lot higher. So if you compare it to a lot of activities, strength training is a really safe thing to do. Okay, so just have that clear. But I think so. The wrong thing you can do with strength training is the adaptation part. You have this threshold, hypothetical threshold, and you do too much too soon, and then you get the response. Okay, so a lot of like injuries in the gym probably is preventable in some degree. Okay, but then again, it's all about finding the balance long term, because when you want to develop your physique and get stronger and build muscle, you have to search your way to that spot, and you have to learn to know your body, how you respond and how you recover. Recovery itself is so many factors. It's all about, okay, how's daily life, how's your sleep, how's your nutrition, is your deficit, is your caloric surplus, how's your genetics, have you poor genetics and you recover slower. Okay, this will have a influence on your training frequency, and then probably how you should stack your exercises. So if I want to train chest 2 times a week. Okay, think about this. I call it the spillover effect. Okay, so when you want to get better, you want to increase your performance. Okay, so the next session you give a go for the muscle, you want performance increase. Okay, but if you say, okay, I have this bench press, heavy bench press on Monday, and we do heavy bench press flats on Thursday, maybe that stimuli and that load on the muscle you did on Monday will have a negative impact on the next exercise. So maybe, okay, here I did this lengthened type of exercise for the mid part of the chest, whatever. And then on the second time, okay, what if I'm going to train the mid part of the chest, but I'm going to emphasize on the short position. So that negative effect you got from the session 1 will not influence the second session because of how you stack your exercises. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We
so
actually
I think
program
that,
sorry.
You program it, yeah, because you're a smart guy.
Well,
oh man,
we both program like that. Me and Luca, we stay. We're very careful towards this.
Yeah, I personally try to not give emphasis to. I try to give emphasis in a program. Let's say the chest. I think Elia does the same. The chest, I try to give emphasis on the various parts. So I don't ever do. If I have only 2 exercises, I don't pick 2 exercises that emphasize the upper chest, for example, but one emphasizes the upper and one emphasizes the lower, or one exercise emphasizes the shortened position and the other the lengthened position, and not just because I think it's good since the 2 performances don't overlap, like the 2 exercises don't give the exact same stimulus, but also because you can just put one before in the session and then like go to the other, and also because it's good to have access to both extremes of the range of motion. If you train people with only like going in the lengthened position and feeling the tension there, and you don't, they forget how to control the shortened position. And it's not only muscular, like something that you lack in a muscular, from a muscular standpoint, but it's also something that we can call it functional, but it's not functional. It's just being healthy with your body and knowing how to control the extremes of the range of motion, and just being able to perform in everyday tasks, or just controlling your body at the extremes so that you don't get injured in any type of movement. I think that's a good idea.
So I think from I have experience from my own training and training people in 11 years now. Is that sorry, I missed my red line. Just give me a second or two, and I think I got it. No, now I got it, because it got when you are a newbie, okay, when you're a starter, the amount of weight you're lifting is not that rough. So you can probably, you can experience like growth every session. You're so potent for like growth. Okay, so whatever training protocol you do, you probably will get some results. When you look at studies on untrained people who start jogging, you see growth in their legs. That's how potent like muscles are in the beginning. Okay, it's like when people start with strength training, suddenly your cardio like your cardiovascular capacity get a bit increased, because you're untrained and start to lift training with strength training. But that effect will not last that long. I think you're probably better off to focus on like a cardio to get the most bang for the buck in those terms. Okay, or if you want to get the strongest as possible, you have to lift the weights. Okay, but the thing is, when you're gradually getting stronger, you will see that each exercise are more demanding. So you can get this period when you get from like a frequency of 1 per week to intermediate, maybe 2 a week, and then some people decrease the frequency and get better results because of the recovery capacity of and in terms of the weights that are pushing themselves through are more demanding. So by decreasing the frequency, actually is better for them. If you talk about like strength sports, there you have something else, because there's a skill component of the main 3 lifts. Okay, so if you look at like the Norwegian powerlifting team, you can see like a frequency of like 1 to 2 times per week with the deadlift, for example, 2 to 5 times a week for the squat, and something similar with the bench. So it's all about this tolerance on muscle, joint, whatever. But there's a skill component, and you have to be a skilled bencher to. It's not all about having this high gym PR. You have to have a high competition PR, because there are some standards you have to follow, with the signals and the stop. And therefore you have to also train on these things. So that's like a powerlifting thing with the frequency. Where this totally makes sense to have a high frequency with that type of training, but it's not like given. You see like powerlifting with less powerlifters with less frequency getting good results. So I think it's all about like the toolbox you have, and you have to look at each given individual and tailor the training thereafter.